I am excited to have Dravee with us today, who was one of the early participants on Code4rena back in 2021. And it's great to have a chat with you because your success on the platform really inspired me to give Web3 security a shot myself. And you are currently a security researcher at Spearbit and an active contributor to Code4rena through contest scoping and also the pre-contest communications. So thanks for joining me on the podcast today. I look forward to hearing your thoughts around smart contract auditing and how you transition into this space.
Yeah, hello Andy and everyone. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. So ask away. What would be your first question?
So I believe you started quite early, like doing audits on Code4rena. Was it late 2021 when you started looking into smart contract auditing?
Oh wow. Yeah, that might feel early, but it was already kind of late, but still very early. And yes, my first contest actually was in the last week of 2021. Uh, and The thing is, yeah, it's better if I talk about how I started, how I learned about Web3
Yeah.
before that. Um, because the thing is, as you saw, and yeah, I gave a big thank you to the Code4rena staff in January, I believe, and that's what you shared in one of your first videos. Because I didn't know anything in October of 2021. I was into Web2 bug bounty, in fact. I was in I don't know if you know about it, but bugbountyhunter.com community. Was quite active in this community and was doing Web2 bug bounty. And yeah, there was this platform called Immunify that also had Web2 bug bounty programs. Of course, the payouts for smart contract bugs were a lot higher, but didn't know anything about that. And yeah, I started getting curious about this type of bug bounty. Um, and that's when I went down the rabbit hole, in fact. I Googled, I searched on Twitter, and stumbled across Semichel. So I think, be it myself or others, we all kinda got a good start thanks to Semichel, because he has this blog post that he wrote last year, not last year, in 2021, already 2023. That was actually a guide on how to start as an auditor. And when you read his post, yeah, he starts by saying that he's number 1 on Code4rena, and then you just ask yourself, what is Code4rena? And down below, he talks about Secureum, where he's a mentor, and you just ask yourself, what is Secureum? And then by going down the rabbit hole, I read Code4rena's documentation and found something amazing. Um, they were paying for duplicates, you know,
Yeah.
and that was very different from bug bounty programs where, well, very often you get duplicates, and yeah, it's quite crowded. Actually, I did get some kind of success, but yeah, it's pretty crowded, and so I thought, why not me? And I started going through Secureum. The thing is, Epoch Zero, the first cohort, it had already started. But I found a repo on their Discord from OX Taylor that's still one of the big references when some newcomer is asking me how to start. I actually send him that repo because it lays out how to go through the bootcamp in 8 weeks. Um, well, I might have taken 10 weeks, but and going at it like 30 hours a week, it was quite dense, in fact. But yeah, it gives you pretty much all the foundation you need to start understanding reports and start competing on Code4rena. So I joined as an unofficial Secureum participant. So I wasn't doing the races, but between that repo, Patrick D, who is a mentor there and has an amazing blog with all the previous quizzes that you can just try your hands at, and if you get a false or right answer, you get the explanation. I got to actually follow on 10 weeks that bootcamp, and I really, really invested myself in it because the more I was learning about this amazing space, the more I just loved it. And so, yeah, that's for some people that want to go too fast. I still encourage them to really start with Secureum. It's very important, and even go back to it after several months when you've got a different perspective on things. That's what I did, at least. And yeah, so after Secureum, there was 1 week left before they stopped for vacation, end of year vacation on Code4rena, and I participated on some contest, finding some gas and QAs, just starting, and I actually managed to earn 1K in that week. So
On your first week?
on my first week, it was
Yeah,
pretty
nice.
exciting, and yeah, at the time I didn't know that I earned 1K, but I knew that I found some things, and on the week where there weren't any competition on Code4rena, I read all gas reports. Well, at the time, gas findings, because there were like other bugs, and well, there was the duplicate mechanism for gas findings and unique mechanism and such. It wasn't yet the gas reports. This happened a little later, and I just read them all. And during that, I also, as I come from a DevOps background and project management background, well, at least my 2 years before doing that, I wrote up some automation tools. I believe I'm the first one to have done that on Code4rena. Now there's a lot of people who are doing this, and some judges even sometimes are happy when they feel like there's a human report, because we are kind of all bots here on QA reports and gas reports. And yeah, I was the first one. So after that, well, first, do you have other questions, or do I just continue on my journey?
Yeah. No, I want to go back a bit. You talked about this GitHub repo that you
Yeah,
sent to people. You sent that to me as well, and yeah, that was actually my first message to you on Discord. I was asking you how should I get into this and what learning resources I should look into, and you sent me that GitHub repo, and I went through that, and that was really helpful for myself. Like I already knew about Secureum at the time, but I wasn't sure if I should really like go through the whole all the resources on there. But like when you sent that me link, I was like, oh yeah, okay. So if you went through it and you found it really useful, then yeah, and found became quite successful on Code4rena, then yeah, I should do that myself as well. So yeah, definitely that was a great resource. Like the only thing I found with that going through the securing resources was like it was a bit dry to go through. Like it was a pretty tough slog to get through that.
yeah.
Did you find it like how did you manage to work through that material? Because yeah, like sometimes it's just like 200 findings, right? And you're just reading through it. It's a bit of a slog. Like, did you have any struggles going through the learning resources on Securing?
Well, I'll confess, for those 10 weeks, Rajiv, who has a very nice voice, was kinda my lullaby. You see, I fell asleep so many times to his voice. Because, yeah, you have a full-time job and you are trying to do your best. It wasn't always easy. And the thing is, well, there's this notion of explaining things, yeah, telling things in your own words, summarize things that can help you learn. And if you actually look at least the first few slots of this bootcamp in the YouTube comments, you will see my own comments where there are my timestamps and my effort to kind of summarize what was being said. So passively listening, yeah, kind of hard, even just reading. So I had to make the effort to reformulate what was being said. Uh, and yeah, when there's a lot of information, yeah, it can be mentally draining. And yeah, I was in best effort mode.
How long did it
Don't know
take
if,
for you to
yeah,
get through all
yeah,
that?
yeah, 10 weeks, actually. 10 weeks. That's supposed to take 8 weeks, but there are some parts where it took a little bit longer. Well, not because there's life, but because there are some things I was just struggling with, like capture the heater, the first CTF I ever I've ever done on Web3. So setting up your MetaMask, knowing what's all that, what's happening, and such. And at the time, there was just a hard hat, And while it was way better than what was happening before. Nowadays, we have Foundry, and it's so easy to get started in this space. It's so well made that writing POCs and making things work just feels natural. So, yeah, I did struggle a little with setting up the environments and playing around things. Uh, But yeah, 10 weeks, and I believe that I actually went through it pretty fast. Um, so yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think as people slowly work through the Secureum learning resources and it kind of starts to click. I think there was a moment when I was reading through, like, I think it was Audit 101, Audit 201, the findings. As I read through those findings and I started to see some themes, like some similar findings start to repeat. And then I think that was when things started clicking for me, at least. So yeah, it took a while, like almost to the end of the Securium resources before I found it, actually stick into my brain.
Yeah, I believe for normal people, I guess, like most of us are, that's actually how it happens. In the beginning, everything just seems like data. It feels like you are learning everything by heart and nothing is making that much sense. And it really feels like when you've started to get familiar with the stuff and finding some themes, like you said, that you can start connecting the dots. So, yeah, I also had this in my previous jobs. You actually start and you can even get productive, but you don't really get what can be said as an understanding of what you're producing or what you're saying or what you're coding. Connecting the dots and having some perspective or even being creative on them, it's yeah, you've got to already have the information in your mind, so you can't, at least I can't do everything at once.
Yeah, seeing patterns and things, yeah, definitely. That helped me a lot when going through the Securing resources. Like, so I think what I did was I just started filing the similar findings together into a folder, and then I can review the similar findings together, and then yeah, it ended up only like not that many categories of findings to like over I think I had over 400 findings on the Secureum, and yeah, I only ended up with like 20 or 30 or so categories. So yeah, like finding those connections in different concepts definitely helps to understand something when you're learning something new.
Yeah, and you are saying that it's not that much, but the thing is, when you're just learning things, it feels overwhelming, actually. And right now, where we are standing at, a lot of things just feel natural. Like, yeah, lots of the obvious bugs that we are always reporting or always seeing and earning one 0.01 USDC on Code4rena, but you need to start there. And at first, I mean, even just the notion of transfer from an address or from an ERC20 or ERC721, at first you don't seem to be able to wrap your head around what it is. Now it's yes a second nature, but
Mm.
that's a lot of work. So that's why it takes a lot of time, and that's normal. You need to give in the work, and then when you know that and you see how top performers are using this knowledge, you feel like you just barely know the basics, which is true, but that's still a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree, and I think it really helps for people who are just starting this, just to see like examples of um, other people finding success, right? Just to help them sort of move along that initial, like very very steep learning curve that they have to go through, because like blockchain security stuff, this is pretty new and everyone coming into the space is pretty much starting from zero, right? So yeah, that's why I want to get people on to just talk about their experiences, and it really helps to hear from people from different backgrounds as well, not just like crazy people with like crazy backgrounds like Trust.
Yeah,
Yeah, we we
yeah,
want to hear from like the normal
definitely
people
trust
as
is the
well.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. The thing is, yeah, I'm not a genius or pure beast like Trust, but I still always was among the first among my peers during school and stuff. So I do learn pretty fast. So that's why when I find things kind of hard to grasp or that there are a lot of information, I know that for people that are just a little less good than me at well, learning information by heart, it's going to be a very hard field. And yeah, when you talk with the top performers, they are really, really, really good. And the more you learn, actually, the more I'm learning, and the more I'm impressed with those that are above me in terms of knowledge. And yeah, that's inspiring, but also kind of overwhelming because you start to get some doubts about can you get there? Why can't you find a path to get to where they are? How are they using all this knowledge? How do they have all this knowledge? And yeah, it's overwhelming. But yeah, I do believe that with time, and we've seen it, be it thanks to your videos for people getting some insight about what others are doing, be it geniuses or more normal people or talented people, or Secureum, which yeah, I was there during the first epoch, how in how they say it. And before that, there wasn't even a structured effort to teach Web3 security. So, yeah, we are kind of early. And that's nice to know because a lot of people, even newcomers like Trust, is pretty much a newcomer, can make a big name for themselves. They can still do that. It's way harder in Web2. So definitely come in and get some FOMO.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. Like Web 2 bounties are it's a lot more mature and it's way harder to sort of make a name for yourself in Web 2. And yeah, I'm also surprised how many people literally like started from zero in 2022 and then within like 6 months or a year. And some people didn't even have a technical background. Like you started in DevOps. At least, you know, you had a technical background. Like some people I've heard, yet, you know, no technical background come into the space and 6 months later they're like, you know, pulling bank on Code4rena. I guess it shows how we are very early because yeah, as the space matures, I think yeah, the rewards might go down a bit for like you won't get to see that like initial huge like jump in progress, and that those rewards won't be as good. And like already, I feel like this year on Code4rena, the rewards won't be as good as it was last year. And yeah, people coming in will probably have to go through Code4rena and just treat it like a learning opportunity there instead of trying to like make a lot of money like very quickly, because that's probably not going to work anymore in 2023.
Yeah, actually, if you look at the all-time leaderboard, most of the top performers actually quit the platform. I talked about it with Sock actually, which is one of the co-founders of Code4rena, and he said that this was keeping him up at night. You see, but yeah, he did feel thankful to have worked with those top performers, and he wishes them all the best. But yeah, things are changing and have already changed. They're changing pretty fast still, in fact. And yeah, definitely harder for newcomers to make it big unless you've got some particular way of working in your brain. Uh, that can still be the case. Like there's this guy, I don't know where he came from, but you know, Sosh or Sush, he earned 70K in one contest. uh, yeah, so it can still happen on some niche contest where you've got some skills. Definitely harder because now if you're learning something, it feels like everyone knows it, but at least it's an amazing learning opportunity because you get to read some very nice reports, and Code4rena kind of became a better platform now that it doesn't depend as much on just the top performers. Finding 15 people uh, that are having a duplicate on a high is quite amazing. So yeah, the shape of Code4rena changed, but in a good way, I believe. Well, with its time, change is good. So most
Yeah.
often, what you can do with Code4rena and what it should be treated at is a learning opportunity. Um, Actually, how I was doing things started to not work so much anymore, and then I started participating a lot less in contests by the end of the year. But I was still treating it as a learning opportunity to know to break through some plateau, which we'll talk about later.
Mm.
Um, and for newcomers, actually using Code4rena, well, you can make it big if you are lucky enough. Um, but it's also a nice way to showcase your skills and to get hired in a firm, which can be very good too, even in this bear market, because there are amazing people in firms who feel like they're progressing more by being in a firm than being independent. It's an individual things, and you get to have some mentors and yeah, get a job, which would pay quite nicely still, and so yeah, treat Code4rena as a learning opportunity and as an opportunity to showcase your skills, as you can pretty much just subscribe and start finding bugs.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Like auditing firms and just Web3 firms in general, they are really valuing that Code4rena leaderboard. Like I put that on my CV, and then yeah, I got a pretty good response rate from most of the firms that I applied to. And you are like top 20 or something on the leaderboard at the moment, I think. And yeah,
Well,
yeah, putting that
trust.
on your CV. Yeah, definitely. I can see how that's gonna help you get a job if you choose to get a job at an auditing firm.
Yeah, yeah. Say you get to showcase your skills, and you get to earn some reputations, and even inside Code4rena, I'm pretty much Code4rena staff now for time with the scouting of projects. Um, yeah, definitely, it's public, it's out there, and it can be good. So treat it like it's your image, like it's your own free ads, your own marketing platform. I don't know, something like
Mm.
that.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty good to get your name out there if you're pretty high on the leaderboard. Yeah, and I also feel the same. The learning opportunity on Code4rena is getting better in a way because the reports are just so much higher quality. Like I'm not sure if you noticed, but I was just reading some of the previous like the recent reports, right? And then I go back and read some of the reports
Oh
from
yeah, oh yeah.
2021.
That's
Yeah, like it's a
that's such a
huge jump in quality,
there's a
right?
huge gap in quality. And you actually, and even more recently, when they have just applied the policy of the mandatory POC for high severity bugs, which I even started to submit with POCs. Um, because at some point, Code4rena was that low effort, what could have been that low effort platform when you say, hey, there's this bug at this line, and yeah, just understand it. There are reports actually like that, and I really hated it. It was so hard to understand. But if you read the recent reports, you actually get to even play around with the high severity bugs and even some medium ones, and and yeah, debug stuff and play around, and that's a lot better to learn.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So just going back a bit, you mentioned so you previously you were doing like Web 2 bounties and then somehow found your way to Web 3 because of Immunify,
Yeah.
and you mentioned that as you started looking more and more into Web 3, you really loved the space. You know, like what particular thing attracted you to Web 3 security?
Danger. It's quite a sensitive space, and when I even met several months later in real life some people like Trustex, which I believe we'll talk about a little later, that made things even more real. When you're starting, often when you're learning a technology and new things, it feels like a game where you're succeeding in coding, in knowing some things, and there are even gamified platforms, well, CTFs are sort of games, and there was this, well, there's still this zombie thing, didn't do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
crypto zombies.
Crypto zombie, yeah. Haven't gone through that, didn't feel the need with Secureum and stuff. But yeah, it's often gamified, but it's actually playing with people's money, and a lot of it at that. And yeah, when you're finding gas and such, what I did for a while, because yeah, it was lucrative, and yeah, it was good for my ego to actually have some success. So I did spend quite a bit of time doing it. The most important thing in that space is actually protecting people's funds, because even when you're losing like $10 somewhere, you might feel bad about it. So imagine losing your life savings or getting robbed or such and such. And so, yeah, I was thinking like it seems sensitive enough to try it. And if I have some talent in it, I could be a good addition and maybe save some people. And at TrustX, actually, as I talked with someone who's been auditing for a while, I heard some horror stories. Uh, People are getting killed, you know. People are getting killed. People are committing suicide. And there's this horrible repo called physical Bitcoin attack, which um, which lists actually all the known physical attack, you know, about the $5 range attack. So even in France, you know, in Paris, there's a famous YouTuber called Hasher. I believe it was him or it was someone else, but I believe it was Hasher. Uh, well, someone knocked on his door and pointed the gun at his head.
Oh, damn.
So a lot of things are happening. Well, people are making it big. You're earning a lot of money, but you've got to protect yourself. That's also why I went a little bit anonymous about that, and I'm not sharing too much of my face. Well, maybe in France it would happen more, and even more in poorer countries like in Africa and such. I definitely encourage people to protect themselves and not really reveal how much they are earning. But yeah, there's this opportunity to earn a lot of money and the opportunity to protect people. And it just felt important. And it was really fun. So all that, all together, I just loved it.
Nice, nice. I think
Yeah, yeah,
that's
that might be a little bit darker that you might have expected as an answer, but yeah, that's actually people's money, and that can have a very deep impact.
yeah. Damn, I hope someone don't knock on my door.
Yeah, I hope so too. But just in case, buy a camera.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, sorry for making people, for making you scared, but yeah, definitely
Yeah,
scared of that.
yeah, there's there's definitely a lot of money slushing around in Web3 and Web3 security. So yeah, definitely, it's probably prudent to sort of like protect your identity a bit. But it's kind
Yeah,
of too late for me now, though.
kinda, but yeah, it's nice to have people. Yeah, I mean, in Australia, I believe that what people are earning is, I mean, in more traditional jobs, can actually be on par with some Web3 jobs. So it might not feel as dangerous, just like in the US, I believe. But in Europe, um, yeah, salaries are like 50K, and you'd be lucky to have that, and sometimes 60K, and that's definitely like 4 times less than what you'd earn in Web3. So, well, I'm saying that, but even for 10K, people are getting attacked. But yeah, definitely protect yourself.
Mm. Yeah, I guess Web3, like we are all 100% remote, and then yeah, very global in a way. So everyone gets paid in US terms. So if you're living somewhere that's not the US and you translate that into your local currency, it can be like quite a big jump from whatever normal job you're working at your country. So in Australia, we are a bit lower than the US rates. So when
Yeah.
I actually moved to the the auditing firm, yeah, my salary got a pretty big bump up. So yeah, that's obviously great in terms of getting paid in USD and translating it into your local currency.
Yeah, well, I actually lose money when I translate it because euro is still stronger. Well, at some point it wasn't, but if you look at pure USDC, yes. But you know something I loved, and I believed I read that in How to DeFi Beginner at the end of it. There are some countries who get some very big yearly inflation, like I believe Argentina, and some people that are getting paid in USDC. That's actually making things fairer for them, as they can just cash out what they need to live, and their money wouldn't lose like half of its value every year, or even more. So yeah, for some countries like this, it's just incredible how fair, no, well, the blockchain and all this technology is making things.
Mm, yeah, yeah, 100%. Like people in Web3, we always like shit on USD for being fiat, but it's still like the reserve currency is still more stable than like some of the other currencies people
Yeah,
may be using in their home country.
yep, definitely. So yeah, there are a lot of things in this space that are very nice. Yeah, I mentioned How to DeFi for beginner, be it this book or the How to DeFi Advanced. I definitely recommend them. I actually read them quite late in my journey. It was in this summer, around August. And there are lots of things I didn't understand before because, yeah, I can transition, right? Yeah, yeah, it's not a secret, I believe, but I've been auditing most of my in most of my Code4rena journey like a savage. Those aren't my words; it's Joran Honig's words. There are videos on the yAcademy YouTube channel. Actually, these videos are from where I was uh, in the fourth cohort, so these are the block fourth videos. I definitely encourage people to watch them. And yeah, he said that some people actually dive straight into the code first, and that's exactly what I did on Code4rena for months, for a very long time, and it worked. It worked because I wasn't missing the bugs that would just happen across projects, you see. And the thing is, you aren't missing the things that everyone can find on all projects, but you are not diving deep in a project. You are not understanding what's happening. And definitely, I spent some time struggling about the DeFi space. I don't know if you went through that, like after your initial um, Web3 security learning journey, but it's another beast altogether. All what's happening in this space, even just the concept of lending and borrowing, it can be hard to wrap your head around that. And that actually happened to me quite late. Uh, well, that's at some point where I started to read books. Any questions?
Yeah, so I guess you mentioned a few learning resources, yAcademy, Secureum, and TrustX. Uh, so you mentioned TrustX to me like a few days ago, and then I had a look, and was that the one where the Code4rena people with like Liam Eastwood, C. Michelle, and they were like dressed in ridiculous costumes doing like like an audit contest on stage? Was it that one?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? If you look at it concentrated enough, at some point they are telling someone to get up, someone who was sitting actually, and with Sock's hand gesture, it was towards me, in fact. I thought he was telling me to get on stage. So you can hear, no, 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 Dravee, no. So yeah, that's exactly it. And I do recommend to watch the videos as they are on YouTube. Just um, go on Secureum's website and you'll see all the conferences that happened. and watch those that are of interest to you.
Yeah, so you must have met like all the top level auditors at TrustX when you were there live, right?
Yeah, I was mind blown. In fact, the thing is, well, everybody might not know about that, but the day before TrustX was over 2 days, but the day before, there was an event called High Severity Dinner, where everyone who found a high severity vulnerability was invited to a very fancy dinner in Amsterdam, in fact. And that's actually when I met everyone. I was lucky enough to have found my first high by then. So I was invited. And yeah, it was quite amazing because at the table there was, yeah, Leastwood, Saint-Michel, Gerard Persoon, maybe it's how you say it. It's not Gerard, that's Gerard. He insisted on that. And a lot of the Code4rena stuff. And yeah, it was a little overwhelming because all those people, especially when you've just started like 3, 4 months ago, they were legends, even millionaires. So yeah, definitely impressed. And the days after, yeah, I really feel like I met with every top performers, even the people from Spearbit. You know, there was even
Yeah, nice.
a party on a boat they called Spearboat. There were two boats actually, and that was organized by Spearbit at night. And yeah, I was on one of these boats.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, definitely an excellent experience, making everything more real, meeting people, and honestly, in this space, they are all very welcoming. And yeah, you'd be amazed at how, yeah, just at how nice people are. For someone like me, I'm sometimes I can get quite competitive and salty when I lose or things like that. At some point, I tried competitive gaming, and when I was losing, it just wasn't worth it. Getting too salty, and yeah, there were just really amazing people, early people that were in this space for some of them for quite a while, very welcoming, giving advices, and yeah, I think you can tell that it was one of my turning points for really wanting to invest myself even more fully in this space.
Yeah, you got in really early. Like at that time, that was I think early 2022, I think.
It was in April, actually, and
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
my invite in March.
Nice. Yeah, like at that time there were only like a handful of people in this. Like I think less than 50. Um
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
high
you know.
skilled people in this space. It's crazy. Like now we've got like now Code4rena leaderboard is I think we've probably got like 1 to 2,000 people that's like at a decent level in this, right? But in 2022 there was literally like just a handful of people doing this. So yeah, that's crazy how
Yeah,
early you got in.
yeah, you'd be amazed. But yeah, in the beginning, when you were auditing, there were actually like 15 to 20 people on a contest. Nowadays, you've got 10 times as much, like 150 and 200 or 200 people in a contest. And yeah, so that definitely gave me quite a good starting point, a good head start, I meant. Because on my first month, you shared actually in one of the videos that, yeah, I had just started and I earned like 4K in my first month. Actually, like several days later, some contests ended being judged, and that first month, well, not that first week where I earned 1K, but that first month, I actually earned 15K.
Wow,
And
nice.
yeah, and on this second month, I earned 27K. Um, at those times, those numbers, by fishing wide, actually, I was just at the time, as I yeah, I was pretty much starting. I was just saying what everyone knows nowadays, but I was the only one doing that. At least at that level, I was spending like, yeah, 15, 16 hours on gas reports. Not reports, but gas findings and the QAs and searching things around. Um, but on gas alone, on each contest, yeah, it was almost 2 days. So it was a very big focus. So no wonder I got first. At some point, it became second nature. I really invested a lot in it. Um, but that wouldn't happen anymore with gas, QA, and the mediums or highs that everyone knows about.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible progress. Surely you must have had a huge boost in confidence, like in the first couple of months, where you got those, some incredible results on Code4rena.
Yeah, exactly. You know what happened? Well, everything wasn't judged, but on the first week of March, I quit my job because those 2 months of Code4rena, I was actually doing things part-time. I could say part-time, but I was actually giving it a lot of hours and sleeping, yeah, really little and got a little fat and things like that. Yeah, yeah, we've got limited time. We are human, but it was really important, and I was giving it my best. Um, but yeah, I was getting tired because I was what 5 months in with the bootcamp, and yeah, reading reports, making my own tools, my own automations. As you might know, I was one of the first. And yeah, I just told them that I got an amazing opportunity and that I needed to quit like very fast. In France, um, there's a 3 months delay before you can quit a job when you're an engineer. Uh, but I really insisted to like leave in a week, and they accepted. They were extremely nice
Hmm.
about that. So yeah, after that, I was a full-time warden on Code4rena. There was even
Nice.
a week where there were 4 contests, and I did all gas reports on them, and yeah, I believe I earned an average of 4K on each contest in the span of just a week. Yeah, it's yeah, I didn't want to miss that. I wanted to
Yeah.
be part of it. I was seeing some success, and I knew it was the time to take the leap and leave behind my old life.
Yeah. So you were doing the learning resources um, while you were working a full-time job, and then once you hit that early success on Code4rena, you're just like, yep, this is what I want to do. You quit your job like within a week, and then you just went full
Well,
into Web3.
also when in 2 months you're getting like almost to your yearly salary, yeah, you can just say that, yeah, I can stop working for 10 months and just learn, and I will get better. I have the confidence and I'm learning fast, and so yeah, just do it. You are mentioning learning resources, and till now I just mentioned Secureum because well, not just Secureum, but actually the repo from Taylor, OX Taylor, because even on there, he does well, not him specifically, but it was in the curriculum. He actually does tell you what chapters, as an example, of the book Mastering Ethereum to read on on um, on each week, and so you get to really do things in a structured way. And there's even that point where you're trying your hands at CTFs, the basics: capture the ether, Ethernaut, and damn vulnerable DeFi, and that's also why I'm sharing this repo so much, because if you don't just go through the Secureum videos, but actually spending the times to read the reports they are suggesting and reading the books, well, the relevant chapters from where you're at, doing the CTFs and such, you can actually get pretty far. well, actually a good foundation. And yeah, those learning resources to start and to have the nice foundation to, well, the first stage, the one I applied for months, is to actually not miss the bugs you're not supposed to miss. The things that are independent from the protocol project itself. Well, when you don't really need to deeply understand what could go wrong by using your creativity on such and such parameters on such function, and if the states is like this, you've got this edge case, and yeah, before reaching that stage of creativity, you've got to not miss the things you are not supposed to miss, the ones that are actually laid out in CTFs. So yeah, definitely start with the foundations.
Yeah. So you mentioned like just being very thorough when you look through the code. Is that how you recommend new people who are new to Code4rena approach things? Like go through the low-hanging fruit sort of issues and learn them very well, and just go through things very thoroughly and understand everything at a base level first, and then you can sort of build up your skills from there.
Well, at least that's how I could do things, and I believe that's how you could do things, because you've got to be familiar with the bad practices, bad patterns, and stuff. Some people like you've interviewed before can actually go pretty deep on a subject, and it feels like they're connecting the dots as they are going, reading the documentations, and yeah, everything is starting to make sense. Still working hard through those talented people, way more talented people, geniuses that are working hard. They are, yeah, we need them in that space. It's not reasonable to expect that everyone will be like that, but what, yes, I can encourage people that sometimes struggle to learn things to do is, yes, you shouldn't miss the low-hanging fruits. And actually, now it can get pretty easy at the time to actually find the low-hanging fruits. Well, I'm quite strong at regexes, and what I did, something that some people might not know, is that you can clone the Code4rena repo, and there's this CSV file called findings.csv. The data of Code4rena, as it's on, well, it's made up on Gatsby, and it's hosted on Netlify, so it's a static website. All data is on the repo in this CSV file, and actually with the right regex, you can find the bugs that have the most occurrences. Well, I'll let you guess how to make this regex, but this is how I did it, and I actually made a list of the most found highs and mediums, even in 2021, and those were the ones as they were happening across contests, the most often having the same title and such. Um, but not only those that are the most duplicated on a contest, even then, uh, I remember that at some point, that's Gerard who said it, there were like 5 on a contest early 2021. You can expect a very high payout from that, and those people were already very good. Um, but definitely look for duplicates, uh, because you want to be able to be one of the people, of the auditors finding it. You can't be the one missing what everyone is finding. Um, you mentioned going deep or looking at the low-hanging fruits. Um, Actually, at first, going deep can be overwhelming. So you've got to recognize the patterns, learn the bugs, and learn to detect them, those bugs. And yeah, what I was doing in the beginning was actually just, yeah, that was my automation because, finding a delegate call somewhere and seeing what's happening there and looking at payable function or at dot transfer, that's not dot safe transfer and such, what's happening there, what could happen. Um, that's a helper, but in the beginning, it can be overwhelming to go line by line, really go line by line. So try to look at where things are usually wrong. Yeah,
Yeah, you mentioned like going deep was very overwhelming. I definitely felt the same when I first started reading like the reports. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in one of my previous videos as well. Um, I jumped straight in and then I started looking at the high severity findings, and then I just randomly picked like a report that had like an insanely complicated finding, and I was just trying to push myself through that and trying to understand it, and then I got completely burnt out. I was like even questioning whether I would even be able to do this, So I
yeah,
think for
I can relate.
yeah, yeah, for early people who are just coming on, it's probably a good approach to start with either the gas optimizations or the QA reports, just to at least get some valid findings and get yourself on the leaderboard first, right? Just to build a bit of confidence. That's probably like that's how I did it, and it seems like that's how you did it as well.
Yeah, you need to go, well, at least when you are someone normal, you need to have some little victories, That's a little bit how the reward system works in your brain, that dopamine rush when you're succeeding. You've got to have some small wins, progressive wins. If you're trying to, yeah, start and just make it big, you will actually get discouraged. Uh, and yeah, that's not good. Actually, action, when you're taking action on small incremental steps, you really get that boost to go further. And there might be some setbacks. I did get a lot of setbacks and plateau too, which can feel really depressing and you begin doubting yourself. But you need the small wins and yeah, just look at what you can understand or what you should be understanding and isn't out of your reach. Don't try to show too much at the same time, and you'll get there.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. It's that pressure you put on yourself, right? Like in the beginning, I was like trying to like do too much too quickly, and I guess like slowing down and just celebrating those small wins, like you said, and it can be sort of just very small. Like I can find one low hanging fruit, medium severity finding, and then you've got that one point on the leaderboard, right? So you can celebrate that and then just slowly progress from there. Uh, it's really like giving yourself a reasonable time frame to sort of work through this learning curve, I guess. And there's also another thing, like I don't know if you've heard about this, like the flow state. So you tackle things at a difficulty level where it's not too difficult that you feel overwhelmed, and not too simple that you feel like it's like you're bored. So like that perfect level where you feel challenged and it's fun, and then that's actually at the level where you would do your best and you would progress your skills essentially.
Yeah, interesting that you're mentioning that because, yeah, as we can see on the leaderboard and such, I did do gas optimizations for quite a while, and yeah, we can't say that automation did everything because they were finding like, the plus plus y and such. But there were helpers, and the things like external calls that could be cached, the storage readings, those operations, and some refactors. Um, These were taking a lot of time, but I got bored, very bored at some point. The thing is, what kept me going for a while, that was the lack of competition. But when several talented wardens came, and I even began to coach someone, kind of proud of him. He even earned the first place in gas optimization in a contest, a newcomer that I kind of took with me from bugbountyhunter.com. Um, at some point, yeah, financially it wasn't interesting anymore, and I was getting bored to tears at some point. Uh, and I did feel like it was draining me mentally because those 10 hours, those days, this time I was not spending understanding the project and diving deep and researching, going line by line, and I was doing gas optimization instead. Yeah, it was too tiring. So yeah, at some point I kind of stopped competing in gas optimization, and at another point I stopped competing altogether.
Right. Did you? So you still have those optimization like scripts? You could potentially still run them, right? And then just like submit like
Oh,
a
I do
good
it.
report.
I do it from time to time. You know, recently there was a versus contest. Those contests where I take like the top five from the leaderboard who are claiming their spot in the audit on Code4rena, and I actually ran my script. Um, and the thing is, it still took me like it was a 2 day contest, but it still took me like 10 hours to make the report because nowadays you've got to show the diffs and tell how much gas is being saved and such. Well, for the little story, I wondered if I bothered for nothing because I was the only one among the five who actually submitted a gas report. So I will have the World Cash Prize anyway. But at least I could tell myself that yeah, this contest had one gas report, and it would be like almost the best one they could get. Quite some value. So yeah, definitely they didn't
Yeah.
steal anything here. I have my script, and they can even help me sometimes find highs, mediums, QAs. There are thousands of rules there. Um, Fact is, it's pretty similar to the tools that Code4rena is running, has been running recently on contest, and they have been saying that this and that are out of scope. But mine is, yeah, I spent a lot more hours, and there are a lot more false positives. But I find it easier to filter false positives than to actually find good, good, good bugs, you know. So yeah, I still use it, like on audits with Spearbit, as an example, or on private audits because it does give quite a bit of value, and I know that I won't miss um, some some gas optimizations uh, because you might forget some, but my automation is like a glorified semi-automated checklist.
Mm.
So yeah, with pattern matching.
Yep.
Actually, if anything, is that at my previous job, I wrote that in PowerShell. It was quite small because yeah, I just had a Windows computer. Then I switched to Mac, and yeah, I'm running PowerShell on Mac.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me before. You have like a lot of scripts that you have in PowerShell that you run on Mac, which is a pretty interesting combo.
Yeah, yeah, I would have re sorry, I can say written them again in another language, like a little bit interested in Golang, but yeah, there wouldn't be any value in doing it. It's working, so I know there's in Web 2 that top performer today is new. Don't know if you heard about him. He's like on every program. He's got a lot of automations and stuff. And he's using a very old language, like VB6, something like that. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
just working. Yeah.
yeah, Web 2 has a lot of automation stuff. I guess your background in that sort of carried over as well.
Yeah, that and DevOps too. I guess I understood the potential and the importance of process and automation, and also with the project management. I guess I understood the importance of writing some clear reports. Well, I also spent several years as a JavaScript developer. Uh, Even did some React Native and Ionic, those are hybrid frameworks for mobile. And yeah, definitely was familiar with coding, automation, reports, even a little bit of coaching, and yeah, it must have carried over.
Yeah, your gas reports are definitely very high quality. I think you're still ranked one on Code4rena at the moment for gas optimization, which is pretty impressive since you haven't been actively competing on there for a while now.
Yeah, I had a pretty good head start. As I said, I was the first to do that, and yeah, was even pretty proud of myself because there was this 1 million contest from OpenSea, and I actually earned first place in terms of gas optimizations. So the gas reports on the 1 million OpenSea contest is mine. Pretty proud of that. And yeah, actually, sometimes at some point, I just did I just ran my automations. Not really proud of that. I wasn't earning first either, but was spending like 1 hour per contest running my automation. Not earning first place, but I was still kind of there, earning enough for a Big Mac at McDonald's.
Mm.
But yeah, I stopped doing that because yeah, I believed it wasn't good for my image. And nowadays, when I do guest reports, I really try to do my best and high quality ones because yeah, it's not about the money, it's about the knowledge, and reputation plays a big part in this industry.
Yeah. How much did you earn for the OpenSea gas report?
I believe it was between 3 to 4K for a gas report.
Mm.
That's
Yeah,
quite high.
nice. Yeah, that OpenSea contest was a crazy 1 million um, reward
Yep,
pot.
yeah, it was a very good one.
So you essentially you got bored of like running your automation and didn't really feel any progress. So then you started looking into like digging deeper into code and then joining yAcademy and the Spearbit. Then was it at that point where you joined? You did an epoch at yAcademy and then after you joined Spearbit, was that when you started feeling like you were making progress again?
Yeah, let me go back in time a little. What I was realizing is that when you're in a team, actually, it really opens your mind. Creativity is easier because you're bouncing ideas off of each other, teaching each other, challenging each other, and yeah, it really opens your mind and makes you ask more questions that you might have asked by yourself. I did spend a little bit of time after TrustX auditing as a team on Code4rena on over 2 months. We made like 21K. We were four. We are still learning from each other and talking to each other every day. Definitely saw some value being in a team. Um, but then we kind of stopped because it wasn't the return on investment wasn't that good, even if we were finding highs and such. The competition was already starting to be not so worth it financially. But then everyone went to their own private stuff, and And yeah, the thing is, when we stopped auditing as a team, I was still part-time auditing by myself. It was around August. I really felt like there was a big wall. There's a lot of things I wasn't understanding, and it felt like unacceptable. I mentioned DeFi. I was struggling to understand or even explain what was happening in this space. I was auditing like a savage, as I said. Didn't really realize it because, with CTFs and technical stuffs and technical bugs, you just feel like you read the code and, oh, there's this bug here, oh, reentrancy, I know how to find reentrancies and stuff. But the process was wrong. The focus wasn't as it should have been, and the understanding definitely wasn't at the level it should have been. I had my talent. I could find a lot of bugs, the low-hanging fruits or the medium-hanging fruits, but getting really creative or having some insights on knowledge, I didn't feel like I was there yet. So I stopped competing on Code4rena because I felt like I needed to bootcamp myself again. And I started going back to going back or going for the first time for several things through the fundamentals. Like there are several YouTube channels like Findmatics, Smart Contract Programmer, OpenZeppelin's Secure Development Series, and there were the books like How to DeFi Beginner, How to DeFi Advanced, and I really tried to understand the classic protocols. That's actually something that Michel um, encouraged in the beginning, but yeah, I kind of avoided that because the return on investment was too big on just the technical stuff. Wasn't the case anymore when I stopped. And yeah, I really felt like yeah, I needed more information to transform it into knowledge. So I started learning a lot. I started reading a lot more reports on Code4rena, asking a lot of questions. I'm lucky enough that one of the auditors in the team is has been auditing for 5 years. It's the guy that found some people getting killed and such. Yeah, a long time auditor in the space. Yeah, definitely impressive. The kind of stories he has, um, and yeah, I still felt while trying to digest these resources that I wasn't able to weaponize that knowledge. It felt like I was learning fast, and I was getting familiar with things. I was understanding things, but how to apply those to auditing, like, yeah, how do you transition that knowledge? How do you use them? Because I didn't feel like if you put me on an audit again, well, I'd know more about stuff. I could understand the protocol more, but I still go back to my old ways of finding the technical bugs and the bad patterns as such, which is nice. And I believe that's what makes you transition from a junior to the level above. But yeah, something was missing, and I did try to reach out to a lot of people asking, and I don't feel like all people, at least those that came naturally, can really explain how they are continued progressing. And I actually believe people that have have it easy are not the best teachers. It's like the genetically gifted in weightlifting, the bodybuilders and such. They are not the best coaches. You actually want someone who can take someone who is struggling and help him break through the plateau. During that time, I did get an audit with Spearbit, the one with OpenSea, and I learned a lot. It was quite nice because yeah, you get impressed by how the lead security researchers are doing things. I got to see their process, how they put some to-dos at some places that felt vulnerable, and how they could get things right. Even like this, you get to see their approach, and it was inspiring, and I learned a lot, but I still felt like something was missing. And then yAcademy happened. And I do believe yAcademy was a turning point. Um, and actually, what was the turning point is mostly the videos that are public on the yAcademy channels, because there were several, well, famous people like Tincho, Gerard, Joran Hoenig, and such that were giving their speeches. And yeah, some of the things that they said kinda, yeah, I could relate to that and they resonated. And I understood that I really wasn't approaching things like I should. Do you have any questions already? Because I
No,
can
no.
continue.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Go continue. Yeah, I want to hear about the yAcademy stuff. Because I actually recently found those videos as well. I found them super helpful, and it sounds like
Super helpful.
you did as well. Like they only recently released them, so I only watched them like last month. So you watched them last year, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And what happened? Yeah, I already watched in the past several videos from Teen Show and stuff. Several people saying how they were auditing, like Sam Citizen. He finds the things and then tries to find a tainted path to the source, going backwards that way. And yeah, that works quite well for him. It wasn't working for me, not that well, at least. But yeah, there was this video where they was telling how several famous auditors, well, good auditors at least, were auditing, and yeah, there was this think first approach. There were three approaches: the think first, and then try to find your way to the source, which is quite often the user input or a node state, and then there were two other ones. There was breadth first search and depth first search. With my background as a developer, well, I loved seeing BFS and DFS again. Um, but yeah, there are some people that actually take the code and they dive deep first. When there's a function call, they go into the internal function and try to understand everything and build some mental maps, but detailed mental maps as they go. And yeah, they write down some questions as they are going. And some others that go wide first, meaning that they make assumptions. And yeah, that's pretty much what I was doing, but not exactly, because between that video and another one when Tincho, yeah, that's stupid because he just said three words, but he said line by line. Fact is, there are some obvious bugs that you shouldn't miss, but sometimes get caught really late in the audit processes, even could be missed by famous firms. But line by line, and between that and the breadth-first search and something I was applying at my previous job, you know the concept of brainstorming, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, we created a concept called Q-storming. And it came from the fact that when you're giving answers, you're actually closing your minds and making assumptions. And yeah, you're pretty much closing your minds. But when you're asking questions, you're opening it. So we were having, as a team, these sessions where we were forbidden from giving answers on, hey, let's do that, or if we do that, that could happen. We only had the right to write questions. And the thing is, questions really do open your minds. And that's where all that clicked. When even when you're reading a report, you should apply this concept of opening your mind with questions and go line by line. And what felt like I didn't catch why it should have been obvious is you shouldn't focus on the answers. You shouldn't focus on the bugs or on the findings. Well, at least for me, you shouldn't do that. You should focus on the questions, and the question is not written on audit reports. When you're taking something complicated and you're debugging and playing around with, you're actually going back to the question, and that's not something that's written in audit reports. So really it changed my way of reading reports and auditing. You need to find the questions. When there's a bug, you don't say, oh, okay, there's this bug. When you're reading a line of code, oh, okay, it's doing that. Oh, okay, it's doing that. You actually need to challenge by asking questions, and the more creative you get and the deeper you can get between answering your own questions by researching similar code bases or others, and then asking other questions, and down the rabbit hole you go. And I started applying this concept everywhere. And really, when you are reading an audit report, and instead of just saying, oh, okay, this bug can happen, you actually go back to the question that the auditor could have asked himself or herself. You can actually weaponize that knowledge. And when you see something similar on another code base, you get to ask that question and find another path, not just that you've learned about a bug and how to find it on such project.
I definitely think like asking a lot of questions during the audit is a great way to just open your mind and dig a bit deeper into code. And I participated in a block on Secureum and also an audit on Spearbit. And both of those audits, there were a lot of questions asked by people during the audit. Actually, Rajiv participated in both of them, so I guess that's why. Yeah, like just either disproving or proving what is being asked just sort of forces you to dig a bit deeper into the code, and it kind of relates to what Trust said in my previous video, where if you like, the more you understand the code base, the issues that are more interesting and a bit harder to find or start to be more clear to you, the deeper your understanding is. So yeah, I think that your queue storming is a very interesting concept that you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, trust also, yeah, there are several proverbs that comes naturally from those things. But I feel like his definition of slow is smooth and smooth is fast, because it feels like what he did is not trying to do everything at once and yeah, accumulating a lot of data and connecting the dots and getting creative with them. He actually even started by reading the documentations back and forth, going into details and building his foundations that way. I'm not sure I could have done that because that would have been too many details at once. Uh, but he's definitely experienced in going deep in stuff and drawing a mental map of things, and that's quite inspiring. And I believe people that do better going deep first, well, that's just my guess. Um, People like that, and other people that actually need to make the assumptions. You know, even the fact that there's a function call and you get to make assumptions means that you get to make a lot of questions. You get to, with the Solidity Visual Developer plugin, write about, well, I guess it does that, check if it does that, does it do that, is there a return value, no, no, no. You are not obligated to write everything, but yeah, I should definitely develop the questioning mind to open your mind. And in the beginning, when I started doing that, yeah, it felt slow. Um, but it's like having a very big checklist. And yeah, I even asked Saint Michel more than a year ago if he was using a checklist, and he said that in the beginning he was, but then he outgrew them. That's a question you can find on Secureum's Discord. It still exists if you scroll up. And yeah, that's kind of like it. It will take time. You will have a checklist, and you will take time to answer yourself. But with experience, it will go faster. And when you've become an experienced auditor, well, you will have like a million questions in mind and answer them very fast and then see some patterns. And I believe this is how you train your auditing muscles. And this is what I was missing, how to train my auditing muscles instead of just knowing about bugs.
Yeah, that's a very interesting approach. Definitely like just asking the questions and then forcing yourself to dig a bit deeper. And I guess like the point about the checklists, I also feel similar to that. Like I used to have a checklist as well. I had like a massive notes in Joplin where I had all the findings I noted down from previous audit reports on Code4rena. Yeah, and I kind of just as you like review those notes and it becomes more familiar to you, you just sort of naturally know them, right? As you look through the code, like it'll like a question will pop into your mind. Oh, that's like from a previous finding. Is this possible? And then you can creatively think of more and more questions to poke at and look through. So you kind of like almost make up a checklist on the fly as you audit the code. At least that's sort of how I found it.
Yeah, that's I believe when you've managed to weaponize the knowledge, because it's become second nature. You can just feel it at some point, and I know some very good experts can't explain that because it just feels natural and like it came with experience. But how do you train that muscle? And that really depends. It might have been obvious to just say what I said, um, but in fact, no, it's not. And that's actually a strategy.
Yeah, it's interesting how like you just hear some one sentence during a video from someone, and then it sort of really opens your mind on how you approach problems and how you do stuff. I guess some things just sort of resonate with each person differently, and once you hear that perfect way of describing something that resonates with you, then yeah, suddenly everything makes sense, and then you break through that plateau, right?
But then you feel stupid because it just feels so obvious. But yeah, when you can explain something simply in simple terms, you've really understood them and it feels easy. But yeah, getting to that point of understanding is not. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess after you went through yAcademy, that was when um, things really started to feel like you were making progress again. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I was still progressing, but a lot slower. But now it's more like I gained a lot of confidence in my process. I know, um, yeah, that I can audit a lot better than before, just by knowing how to open my mind on a code base. And yeah, I've stopped going at it like a savage. I read documentation first, and yeah. At least to get
Yeah.
an idea. Even reading the documentation can open your mind to some questions, and really just insist. But it's not about the answer; it's about the question.
Yeah, nice. That's a really good approach.
Yeah,
Definitely experienced similar when I was going through Secureum and also my audit at Spearbit. How many audits have you done at Spearbit now?
yeah. There's an ongoing one, and I actually started pretty late at Spearbit, doing that one for OpenSea in September or October, a 2 week one. Right now we're in the mitigation review phase of another one, so it would make two of them. The thing with Spearbit is that while the payout is quite high, there aren't that many audits, but when there are audits, actually the code bases are extremely optimized and the protocols are extremely well funded, and they're coming to Spearbit to get the best auditors in the space, and it's really extremely impressive. Spearbit is doing a good job at retaining those talents, and yeah, I know about some security researchers because yeah, it's getting a little crowded at Spearbit. But there are security researchers who have been there for 8 months and never got even one audit. And
Oh,
good
wow.
security researchers at that, but because yeah, they're at that level. Um, but yeah, when you're a leader, definitely you can shine. When you're security researchers, you've got to show your strength. And with the payout and such, which is quite stressing to me because when they're paying you that much, you've got to do your best and even more. Um, yeah, it's extremely, yeah, you learn a lot and it's extremely impressive.
Yeah, Spearbit is definitely like retaining a lot of the top talents in the space. I guess it's because of like the insanely high rates that they're paying for security researchers. Like leads, they're paying 20K a week. Security researchers 12.5, and then they call associates 6 point something, and then juniors 3 point something K a week, which is just like pretty insane rates. But I guess um, the downside is you don't get audits all the time. You have to wait quite a long time. I think I only did one audit at Spearbit since I joined last year. I waited like a couple of months as well for my audit.
Yeah, and yeah, as there are many people, and some of them, when there's a new audit, they are just like applying to it by clicking on a button. They have a platform to apply to an audit saying you're available in this time frame. But what I did to get my audit is actually showcasing my strengths, saying what I was specializing in what I read, like about the NFT marketplaces and such, or even my bow-tied Warden's teams. Um, you're pretty much deep into NFT stuff, and as I also did kinda well, at least on the gas part of the OpenSea contest, I got taken in for the OpenSea audit.
Hmm, nice.
And yeah, you've got to showcase your strength. But then you get to see an extremely optimized code base, and yeah, you can feel overwhelmed compared to Code4rena because it's like there's no low-hanging fruits, at least not many, and yeah, you get to learn a lot, but you definitely need to work a lot and really try to deliver. It's important. I really feel like being in Spearbit is, well, at least for me, one of the most important things right now. Uh, One of the most important places to belong, and yeah, that's a bit of stress on every
Hmm.
audit.
Yeah, it is getting a bit more crowded on Spearbit. When I joined, I think it was like 20 or 30 people on there. And now I just looked at it the other day. It's like around 100 people on Spearbit, like counting all the leads up to juniors, 100 people all up. So yeah, I can see how some people are waiting a long time for their first audit there.
Yeah, and they will wait even more because, yeah, those lead security researchers who are coming, yeah, they're really good. To become a lead security researchers, you've got to have been in this space for a while and be really strong at auditing. And those security researchers who are coming, They are actually, for some of them, lead security researchers level. But they either came in to, yeah, do some audits and prove themselves, or they refused to come in as a lead security researchers because they wanted to have the opportunity to learn instead of lead. And that's quite insane because the security researchers are becoming like lead security researchers to be. And
Mm.
so those that have been waiting, yeah, that's not going to be much better with time.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what's gonna happen in the coming year. Is it gonna be too crowded there, and where's the talent gonna flow in this space? Because it's kind of like I see at the moment, like the top people, maybe like a handful of top people in this space, they have gone independent mostly, like doing private audits, Spearbit stuff. And then you've got people who are trying to sort of upskill. They're doing Code4rena and then perhaps looking for a job at an auditing firm, which actually looking for a job is not that easy now either, just even compared to last year, just because of the hiring has slowed down a bit because of the crypto bear market. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
lots
getting
happened.
hard. It's getting hard to sort of get in. I think we are very fortunate to have gotten like early last year
Yeah, very,
onto
very.
Code4rena in this space.
It's still not too late, but new people coming in will have to work a lot harder, maybe. Well, I'm saying that, but we already work like like crazy people, so but they can definitely make it and
Mm,
get their chances.
yeah. Yeah, there's definitely still opportunity to be had, right? Just not maybe not in the immediate term, because the increase in competition and also right now the jobs are kind of scarce and people are waiting a long time to actually do an audit. When before when we were in the bull market, like projects were waiting months to do an audit, not the other way around, right? So maybe when we hit the next bull market. Perhaps in 2 to 3 years, then if that switch flips again to the other way around, yeah, people who are sort of leveling up right now, I would imagine wouldn't have too much issues getting into the industry.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, I believe people would have wanted to be there. Those that would miss that bus, I'd say. Yeah, you really want to be someone knowledgeable at the next bull phase uh, of the market. Definitely. I do believe it will be, yes, lucrative, full of opportunities, extremely interesting. Actually, one of my goals is to be one of the big names by that time. I already have, yeah, some kind of fame, I guess. But yeah, the more I learn, the more I know how those that are truly experienced and that have been doing that for a while are far ahead. And it's both impressive, inspiring, and yeah, you want to be there. Aim for it.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely feel the same. Like the more you learn, the more you feel like there's a lot more. There's a big, level gap there between like the top people who are doing this and people who've just been doing it for like a year or 6 months or something like that. Even now when I got a job at an auditing firm, yeah, I still feel like there's still a lot more for me to upskill on. So, what do you think in terms of your thoughts around, like either bounty hunting on Immunify or Code4rena or getting a job at an auditing firm? For you, what do you think what are your sort of goals around this?
Well, when I was plateauing pretty hard, I did find a lot of value in being in a team. Um, I really believe I break through that plateau and that I can bring a lot more value now. But I still feel like, there's this African proverb which says that alone we go faster, but together we go further. And the thing is, yeah, maybe you can accumulate a lot of data and knowledge in your mind, but if you want to take it to the next level of creativity, insight, and such, um, finding a good team, a good firm, people you can work with, match with, can actually go a long way to take you to the next level. And I believe one of the next stages would be to really be in a good team. My own team, well, we might go back to Code4rena from time to time, but they are mainly on their own engagements, even if we are still learning together, but we are not auditing as a team. So joining a firm, and I actually have one firm in mind that I really like. It really clicked, so we'll see how it goes. Um, Joining a firm and people you like, you can work with, or even you admire, um, yeah, it might take you to the next level. Actually, I believe that I wouldn't have been ready to do it last year um, because I needed to make my own experience. There were so many opportunities. There were lots of things I wanted to try, and I was still trying to find myself. And given the overwhelming amount of things to learn and to know, yeah, alone I went faster in getting the data in my mind. But connecting the dots and going to the next stage, yeah, one of my goals is to join a firm, which might sound counterintuitive because it feels like people kind of outgrow firms, but it really depends on what type of person you are, what type of learner and auditor, and how your brain works. And for me, and I believe for a lot of other people, um, it's there's there are actually a lot of benefits in being in a team and in a firm.
Yeah.
Even just to grow, if and if you want money, you talked about bug bounty, just dive deep into a bug bounty program that really interests you. I confess I never really did bug bounty hunting. I try to run my automations, and yeah, the projects are already audited and such, and you wouldn't find something very fast. Um, you can poke around and such, but I feel like with bug bounty hunting, I'd rather have a project that is of interest to me and learn from it. When you're auditing or bounty hunting, you really want to continue progressing and learn, not just apply what you know. And that's one of my biggest mistakes. I've for a long time just applied what I knew, and yeah, was accumulating data and search and trying to know all things, but you really want to have some benefits from every audit and bounty hunting.
Apply what you know is sort of like reading the previous audit reports and try to pattern match like the same findings.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good to start, but once it's become a second nature, and yeah, you can become trapped, I guess, even in auditing firms, if you're doing it for a long time, because yeah, you're finding bugs, you're optimizing codes, and yeah, you're not missing what you shouldn't miss, but that's not the way to go further and beyond, you see, in terms of level. And I actually really believe that since realizing those, I'm on the right path. I can feel it and really excited about learning again and how I do things. So yeah, at some point you've got to discard some things.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like auditing as a team, I probably had my biggest jump doing my Secureum audit and then the Spearbit audit. It really I really feel that collaborative process where you like ask a lot of questions and open your mind to stuff, and just expose yourself to more ideas, right? So I guess that's one of the reasons why I decided to join an auditing firm, because I feel it's a good way to spend some time just working with other people, because you're always working with a team at a firm. So uh, that is going to be a really good help in upskilling. And also just the time that I was able to spend. Like you already quit your job like early last year. I was still working full time, so I wanted to just spend more time on auditing, and I wasn't able to do that. So yeah, that um, I guess that's the second factor why I joined an auditing firm. And now it's been a month since working full time as an auditor, and I the biggest thing was just feeling that luxury of slowing down and looking through the code in more detail, and just digging deeper and having more understanding, as opposed to like just feeling that time rush, and maybe like feeling like you didn't have enough time to go through a Code4rena audit, or just only doing this part time or something like that.
Yeah, especially on Code4rena when there are several contests running in parallel, you really want to do all contests, and it's really hard to not get the fear of missing out. And yeah, it's hard to dive deep on Code4rena. It's definitely the thing to do, however, but yeah, it can be challenging mentally. It worked quite well for Trust. He did also put in quite a bit of hours, but yeah, slowing down to go faster, in fact. That's counterintuitive, but you really need at some point want to go into details and learn and benefit from things, and yeah, really take your time. That's also what happens in Spearbit. You've actually got time to audit the code, and it's one code base where you are paid quite well to really focus on it, and there's a lot of value in that. But yeah, Code4rena, if you want to make it big, don't try to be everywhere at the same time.
Mm. Yeah, good tips. So, what are your advice to like new people coming into the space? How should they approach Code4rena, or like if they're coming from another industry, or if they're a student or something, they really want to get into Web3? What would you recommend to them?
Well, it depends on the stage you're at, definitely. Um, but I mentioned the concept of questions. You need to ask yourself that questions. What are your actual needs? Is your head empty? Well, go through Secureum. Like my head was empty in 2021. You've got some knowledge, but things are missing. Go through the CTFs, debug stuff, go through some repos that are actually explaining some bugs. If you need more practice, it really depends on where you're at, but try to see where you are. Are you really a beginner? It's Secureum, definitely. Are you intermediate? Um, Try to accumulate knowledge and connect the dots, but don't try to do everything at the same time. Maybe take one audit or one specific area of interest and try to dive deep in it. I'm saying that, but I struggle to do it because, yeah, I also had the fear of missing out when there were lots of contests and such. So do what I say, but not what I did, but what I'm
Mm.
doing right now. Um, but yeah, we are only human, and we can only take the best effort at go into best effort mode, you see. So Yeah, I'd say there are a lot of resources, and be it St. Michel's blog, the blog from Patrick D, YouTube videos, books, CTFs, lots and lots of repos that actually explain bugs, or as you saw, and yeah, you shared it. I sent you the link and you shared it. DeFi Hack Labs, who retraces previous hacks. Go through those, but slow down. You've got to understand, not just know. That would be my advice. Well,
Yeah,
not at
nice.
first. At first, accumulate data in your head.
Yeah, definitely some good tips.
Don't try to follow someone, even not me. If you're different, if you can relate to me, yeah, you can try and you can avoid my mistakes and things I learned late by hearing it early. But really try to know yourself. Yeah, I know it's a very old quote, but really try to know yourself. Because at some point when you're just trying to do things that you believe you should do, that might not be the way to go, and you might reach a plateau that can go on for a long time, and you would just feel depressed because you are actually feeling like you are doing what you're supposed to do, some structured learning and things you are supposed to learn, but you're not feeling like you're progressing and weaponizing your knowledge. Try to know what are your specific needs as a person, as an auditor. What type of auditor are you?
Yeah, makes sense. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, Dravee.
Yeah,
A
me
lot of
too.
good
Thank
tips,
you.
and I really appreciate that different point of view, like hearing how other people went through their journeys, and yeah, definitely. It's more relatable, right? To people who are coming new, to hear some struggles and then overcoming them. So, yeah, that's really great to hear, and I hope you get into that auditing firm that you are hiring, and yeah, that's it's going to be a pretty interesting 2023.
Yeah, I believe so too. And thanks for having me.